So today I wanted to talk about healing codependency after surviving a narcissistic childhood family system. So I cannot talk about narcissism anymore without talking about spirituality. Narcissists see themselves as God, and they entrain people around them to see them as all-powerful God. And as children, we are taught, we're not taught, we're born to surrender to what the people around us tell us is true, right? Somebody has to raise us and tell us, how to do things and what to believe. And, a child looks up to the parent every time they take a new step and they're like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? So it's natural. That's what children are supposed to do. And I believe that as human beings, we are born to surrender to beliefs, whatever those beliefs are. If you're an atheist, you have beliefs. And so once you have a belief, you kind of surrender to it. You let it be the backdrop of your understanding, your decisions, whatever. I don't have an investment on if you're what you believe. My investment is that you feel good about yourself, inside yourself. And so one of the things that we get from a healthy spirituality, so let me go to the other flip side now. A healthy spirituality lets us believe that we're good people, that we're born good, that we're born worthy, that life is worth living, that we're born to express ourselves creatively, lovingly, joyfully, that life is worth living. A healthy spirituality will teach us that life is worth living, that we have agency and power in the world and being fully ourselves. So here's where codependency kicks in for people who have dealt with a lot of, especially childhood narcissistic abuse. And this came from me watching the movie Inside Out 2, which I thought was amazing. So spoiler alert here. So the main character in the movie, when she's going through teenagehood and she's having some anxiety and envy and embarrassment and these teenage emotions and ennui, just a permanent state of discontent. I know that's extreme. I don't mean it that way, but yeah, she's like, I'm too cool for school. I'm just too cool for everyone. I've got my little iPhone here and I'm just cool. Well, one of the ways that the main character learns to regain her sense of self when she goes through anxiety and through stressful events is she has a sense of self that relies on a belief, that is based on a belief that has a lot of evidence behind it, that goes, my parents are proud of me. My parents are proud of me. And she leans into that to get strong inside. That's very healthy. That's very healthy. And I thought, well, what if you don't have that? What if you don't have a sense of my parents were proud of me? What if you were the black sheep? What if you were the scapegoat? And I thought there's got to be like a conversation about this. So how do you decide your own worth? How do you decide your own goodness? And I believe that we are entering a world of a new spirituality. A lot of people are turned off by the old religion. We have a lot of people in an in-between place who aren't choosing anything. And one of the things I learned in healing narcissistic abuse, when I learned about complex PTSD, is that there's 4 kinds of abuse and neglect. And they are physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. I read this in Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD, which I highly recommend if this topic is new to you and you're wanting to learn more. Just it's core. It's really good. It'll just give you a framework of what you're dealing with, mainly shame and grief. Unresolved shame and unresolved grief will perpetuate bad feelings about yourself, inside yourself. So what is trauma? What is trauma? Trauma is a sense of disconnection from self. Shame is pretty much the same thing. Shame is I'm a bad object. I'm a bad person. So how do we correct that in ourselves? The new spirituality in our world, I believe, what people are looking for is a sense of deeper connection in themselves of their own sense of connection with God or with Goddess or with the infinite loving intelligence that creates the planets orbiting around the sun so perfectly, and the thing that makes the grass grow. It's that we each have our own experience, and there's all these like new spiritualities that are evolving, that new spiritual teachers that are showing up saying, hey, you can trust yourself, you can trust yourself, you can trust yourself. And even in like the 12-step programs, the first few steps really have to do with willingness to believe in a higher power. It doesn't matter if you believe the higher power is a chair, as long as you believe that it's bigger than you and it's benevolent. I mean, those are the kind of little rules of the game there, that it's benevolent, that it wants your good. And so how does this relate to codependency? One of the things that I realized in some of my unhealthy relationship experiences is I was looking sometimes to other people who I loved, appreciated, admired for their validation of my goodness. My goodness would be validated by their gaze, or my goodness would be validated by working really hard at projects that have a lot of meaning, that make a big difference, and proving my worth. Now, what I can tell you for sure is that neither of those worked. In fact, those relationships became unhealthy, and I believe I probably triggered feelings of resentment in the other person. And so I'm gonna start coming to a close with a big thought, which I might talk about in the future, but you can certainly look up on the internet if you want more information. I recently came across something called internal family systems. And I also recently watched the movie with Maggie Smith called The Secret Garden. There's a few versions of it. I highly recommend the one with Maggie Smith, The Secret Garden, and also Back to the Secret Garden. And what these things have in common, what internal family system and these two movies have in common, is a sense of what it means to become your own healthy inner parent. What it means to find the magical key to the magical garden that lives inside of you, and that it's your garden and you have a right to enter there whenever you want, and you have to gain a sense of trust within your own being from parts of you that feel afraid or that feel lost or feel alone or feel abandoned. And as you become the authority figure within your own very being, you also get the opportunity to feel more spaciousness in your being, to get a feeling of more energy flow, more chi, more prana, which internal family systems talks about. It talks about how to participate in a relationship with all these different parts of you that feel good, that feel bad, that feel secure, that feel insecure, how to deal with dilemmas, how to deal with them conflicting with each other. And coming to a place of more energy, more clarity, more calm, more creativity, more confidence. He's got all these C words. Richard Schwartz created it. And he's a Harvard psychologist, marriage and family therapist. And my background was in marriage and family therapy in school. And when I graduated from graduate school, I didn't want to be a counselor. And I met a coach and I became a coach. And so that's okay. So let's start wrapping up. So what you want is you want to feel a sense of healthy authority inside of yourself that leaves you with a steady assumption and a steady feeling of your worth, your value, knowing that you're a good person because you were born a good person. Now, I'll say one thing: if you're dealing with narcissistic relationships, whether you had that in childhood or you just exited some of that, or smear campaigns or anything like that, or gaslighting, those relationships are littered. I was going to say glittered, but it's not glitter. It's really crappy. Littered with double binds. And when you're someone who was a child who had to deal with double binds, you had to go against your own integrity in order to survive, in order to heal, in order to, you might have had to betray someone that you love. You had to go against yourself at some point or another, or at many points or another, maybe in order to protect the other parent, you know, but you learned how to abandon your most important values, or your most important, your sense of self, your sense of self. And so what you're regaining as you heal codependency after narcissistic abuse, what you gain is a sense of inner conviction, inner clarity, inner authority that you're a good person, because you are. I believe in you.